Hello everyone, so today I'm going to draw a budgie bird. Budgie is a very simple bird to draw. The things that you need to consider when you are drawing it is it has a protruding forehead, as you can see here, and it has a beak that is relatively flat when closed to its body. So this is one of the most popular pets in the world because they are very docile and overall just a breeze to have. They are very cute, and overall, since all birds are mostly cute, this is one of the most popular picks. So the body is very simply shaped. The shape itself leaves nothing too much to think about, since this is a very fluffy and relatively rounded bird. There is not much to think about when you are drawing this bird. When you are trying to draw a budgie, it is mostly straightforward. You just draw a big fluff ball and it's mostly done. So here I am drawing the fluff ball. It still has the anatomy, of course. It has wings and it has all kinds of structures going for it. But for the sake of simplicity, when you are drawing this bird, all you need to do is distinguish where its wings are and where its tail is going to be. The rest is going to sort itself out because it's a simple bird to draw. So let's say this is the budgie. The tail is going like this. It's going out of the frame. You have the body that is very fluffy going like this, and pretty much the entire body is done. So you go and make it, and yeah, that's the entire bird body. You put the eye here. So what's important is the eye is relatively far from the mouth or the beak. And the beak itself has a big nostril here. This animal has nose, and its nose is located right above the beak. It's not part of it, but it is on a small lump of meat that's above. When you are drawing, you need to consider that. And then you put its eye. It is very human-like in that it has a pupil and then a white eye. Anybody who has had this bird also knows that apart from this, they also have these colorful feet. Unlike most birds, their feet too are colorful, and so you need to keep that in mind. Most budgies are colored either green and yellow or blue, and they always have streaks of gray. So this is an animal fact. When you are drawing this animal, you should know that when you have this animal colored, it is going to be probably green and yellow or blue and the surrounding colors in the palette. So let's put the small branch that it sits on. We are drawing the branch that it sits on. As you can see, it is grabbing the branch with its feet. It has these little feet that go around the branch, and let's do kind of this. It grabs the branch. Since it's a bird, it is well equipped to do so. This is the general bird. But what you need to do is you need to give it color, because this is a very colorful bird. So what you are going to do is first you have the bird structure, which is this, and then you put all the details, which is what I'm going to focus on. So the important part when you are drawing a budgie is it is a very colorful bird. This is a bird that derives all its beauty from its color, and so you need to keep in mind how to color it. If you are not going to give it the texture of its feathers, which is very hard to do and time consuming, you should give it the details that it deserves. So how do you do that? How to do a proper budgie drawing? First, you need to distribute the color sectors, I would say. So here I am making a distinction between the areas that it has The difference is in color. Here, I am slowly separating the areas where this bird is actually going to have stripes. Because one specific thing about budgies is that they have a lot of stripes. And the stripes are different colored. Usually they are gray or black. And now I'm going to mark the small details. These details that I'm marking are going to be different colors. For example, here it's going to be black. Here it's going to be yellow. And here it's going to be striped black with yellow, but here at the top of the wings and the body is going to be green. And actually this small stripe and the feet are going to be blue. This is the beauty of nature. The different colors that we can see in different animals are very likable and great details. They make our eyes not get bored, and they are very important in terms of when you are making a drawing and you want your animal to be as accurate as you would like them to be. Let's say we are darkening the small details before we attempt to make it more colorful. So here we have all the color sectors. I advise to put the major colors before you actually begin coloring the bird. It makes everything easier. So for example, here first I'm starting with this part of the beak. I'm going very light because it's going to be blue and green at the same time. That goes for here as well, but it's going to be a mix of blue, green, and yellow. So here I have colored. Here I'm going the same. This is going to be a very dark blue. But before I do that, to give it the texture of the feathers, I'm going stripe by stripe, line by line, a little more detailed than what you'd expect, but it pays off and gives a great texture. Second pass, we give more pressure, and that's it. The pencils that I use are made by Stadler. They are Mars Technico. I found this on Amazon for a bundle of 6 for about 24 euros on sale. That gave me each pencil for 4 euros. That's incredibly good value. This is a lead holder. It holds 2mm lead. So when you put it down like that, it releases the lead. And you can also put it back in. This gives you a great deal of control on how you want to actually color your picture, because you can make it release as much lead as you wish. Now we are going to add the colors green to this beak. So here I'm going to give it a kind of a crosshatch effect, very light still. Here even lighter. This gives you a mix of color, as you can see. So what is going to happen to the beak is it's a mix of green and yellow. So first we have a light pass with this yellow. Again, very light in terms of stripes. And we are going to give it also, to emphasize the color mixing, a crosshatch effect that goes with the green going downwards instead of the vertical, instead of the horizontal we had for the beak base. So as you can see, there's a mix of color that's neither green nor yellow, it's both. That is one of the great details to keep in mind when you are drawing birds that are very colorful like this. So now we are going to make the very lightly colored feet. The feet have blue up to the front knuckles. So we are putting some blue down there. And then when we have that, it's going to be mixed with green. So what I'm going to do is, to give a color gradient, I'm going to mix the transition part a little bit like this, still very small and very light. So here I'm giving it a little bit of transition. It's a kind of dark green, like grass green or military green. The LEDs that I'm using for this is also from Stadler. They're just to warn, very expensive. I'm giving a little bit of yellow to make the colors better, because when yellow is getting mixed with blue, it's also going to produce some kind of green. And now I'm adding the main blue part so that it fits in with the body. And it is seamlessly fitting in, producing a very unique blue and a very unique green when it mixes with the underlying yellow. The color mix isn't as harsh as you'd expect, and thus you have a very unique color change that you can observe when you look at the details. Now that we have done that, we are going to put the basic colorings first. What's the basic colorings? Now we are marking the parts that are going to be with stripes, and before we give the stripes, we are going to give the background color. It's going to be an underlying color first. So here, for example, we can give the dark gray of these spots. This is foreshadowing for the dark gray of the stripes that we are going to give it. But once we color the baseline, the stripes are going to be easy. This is also something to be very careful about in life. If you have structure to whatever you do, you are going to have a much better time doing whatever task you are given or you determine to do yourself. So here we are strengthening the beak outline, and now we are strengthening the nails. I am drawing this, one of my favorite birds. They are very docile, very friendly, and overall just lovely. The head, the front part, is usually a more bright color. It can be white if the bird has a blue body. It can be light pink, or it can be yellow. In the case of this bird, it's going to be yellow. So for this part, you can give it a texture line by line of feathers, which is what I'm going to do. What determines the feather structure is the small empty spaces of white. So the pressure does matter here. Be careful to follow the curvature of the forehead. This animal has a big forehead, so you are just giving it small lines. I rotate the pencil every few strokes. This is how I keep it sharp on all lines. This is an old school hack, so to say. One thing about this technique of rotating the pencil is that when you are rotating the pencil, you are giving it a little bit of the more blunted edge to break down, so that edge gets flatter, and then you turn so that the other edge that's now more blunt than the rest also gets some pressure. And this ensures that nearly all edges you have at the cone are getting used and sharpened. This is, in fact, a very revolutionary design in a pencil called the Uni-Kurtoga from Japan. They do this extensively so that with every small push, your pencil rotates the lead like a seasoned old school drawing person would. Here is going to be a little bit of a color mix. So what we are going to do is, first we give a small background color of yellow, again with strokes so that it looks like feathers each line. So what is going on for this bird is it has more of a hairy look than feathers, because some parakeets and some kakadu birds have actual feather structures that is very visible and very hard to draw. But this bird doesn't really have that. Here I give light strokes of green again, just like feathers. Always keep in mind to give it in the general direction of the main body and in small strokes that are not very deep, or you are going to have very deep strokes that are going to stand out and create a weird color. Now you should keep it very light, because the lead that I am using is actually a very deep green, and that is not really fixed or fitting for this bird, because this bird is known for its neon colors, not military dark green color. So what you do is you give it very light lines. As you can see, the bird isn't too detailed itself. The detail lies in the coloring and in the texture. The texture is given by how you are drawing the bird itself. And that is why the small linear strokes matter. It is not a small detail. If I was just drawing this horizontally, the bird would look very undetailed and overall less appealing. The small emptiness that the little the little white stripes actually give the bird a lot of personality and realism. So I'm keeping to draw this with the small texture strokes so that it looks like the bird has actual feathers that are stacked on top of each other. Slowly going. Again, we are going to give it another pass with yellow so that it has a more neon effect. The yellow that Stadler has with this Lumocolor sets, which is one of the most expensive pencil leads ever, is actually very high quality, very good in color transfer. The pigment is very nice. It is on par with something you could buy from Derwent actually, and therefore I recommend everyone, if you are just setting out to use mechanical pencils, lead holders and stuff, you should either get Stadler or Koh-i-Noor. So Koh-i-Noor is another brand that I am a big fan of for drawing. And since you can adjust your mechanical pencils better than a wooden pencil, I'm a big fan. Now the second pass. So what I am going to do is just giving it more generalized lines, because we are filling in the blanks, not giving it the feather structure. That's already there. We are just giving it lines. Enough to give it the neon effect, the neon color, in the same direction as the individual lines, but nothing too specific. As you can see, it is going a lot faster than the coloring session before, when we were first giving it the texture. Slowly going, slowly going, in the same direction as these feather lines. That's the main point. And here you actually benefit from not turning the pencil at all, because you need a broader area to color. The more blunted the edge you have gets, the better your coloring is going to be, and the faster you are going to achieve that, because it's going to be wider and it's going to be covering a bigger area. So let's give it 2 passes, one with more pressure, because again, it's never too bad to have a prominent color in a colorful animal. The nature I find, and all wildlife, to be a delight for my eyes. They are great to look at, great to interact with. Most are friendly, especially birds. Even crows and ravens. So it's a story time. I once had a family of ravens, just mom, dad, and the baby ravens. One of the baby ravens fell to the ground in front of my window. At the time, I was living on the ground floor of a college dorm, and I decided to give this raven a few little pieces of peanuts and other stuff that birds eat, essentially seeds. It turns out this raven actually never forgot about this and told about this to his parents, siblings, and pretty much every single raven that was in the same area. What happened is, I actually befriended this bird, and I started finding very shiny pieces of objects in my windowsill, like food wrapping, chocolate wrappers, anything that was aluminum and pretty much reflective, I was finding in front of my windowsill. It was the gift from the raven that I fed when it fell out of the bird nest, because its parents were away and it may have actually suffered a lot from just not being able to eat. And it never forgot that. That stuck with me because it taught me that animals are smarter than we are, thinking that they are. And so these animals deserve more respect than we give credit them for. So here I'm going to give it some deeper green. Again, this is one of my favorite birds, and I just love budgies because they're very friendly. I never see any of them being too much. And also, I actually had a budgie when I was a kid. We didn't know much about bird care at the time. We just thought it was very cute and brought it home. And after some time, sadly, it got sick and we didn't know what to do much. And it died. That always stuck with me because I was very attached to the bird. I was a little kid. I was 7 years old. And actually, my parents were even more attached to the bird. And I remember my dad and mom being very sad. We held a burial for the bird, actually, because it was like a part of our family. And we still do remember its name. And it's a weird exotic name, I'm not going to say, but we still kind of have a soft spot for birds. And because of this, on the balcony of our family home, we have a small little bag of bird food. The small sparrows that live in the surrounding areas come and eat from that little food dispenser, a little bowl of nuts and breadcrumbs and all kinds of stuff, and they are happy. Now, a lot of birds are not really well suited to eat bread also, so we keep the crumbs at minimum. It's mostly seeds. But still, at times you just drop whatever crumbs you have left because a little tiny pinch of them isn't going to harm. But you shouldn't feed your bird exclusively on breadcrumbs. Birds have specialized bird food for a reason. Now we are giving the feather structure to the actual wings. So here, this area is different because it's going to receive its signature stripes. What makes a budgie is the stripes it has around the back half of its head and on its wings. So they are slowly curving for the wingtips. Again, line by line. If you can't get the structure first, then you get a second pass. It isn't crucial, but it's still good to have a drawing technique of your own for different types of textures. It still does make a difference, even if it's not too visible. So here it's mostly done, and now we have the base laid out. Now I'm going to be putting the stripes. The stripes are very close together, but they are also very textured. This is the hard part. So here, the stripes are actually the feathers, going like this. Now, I'm going with this to give it the optics of a feather. So here you see, this is horizontal feathers. Now we are going to give it the other set of feathers that are right beneath, so that it shows that it has layered feathers, and these are not one singular monoblock long feathers. Instead, there's feathers on top of other feathers. So here I'm going to give it like this. Yeah, so now we see that we are going to give it the more fluffier feathers that are around here. These are thicker. So what do I mean when I'm drawing them? These are more like this. A little bigger, a little wider, and taking more space. So now that we have these feathers, it is easier to distinguish the other feathers. So the feathers and the stripes distinguish themselves around the neck of the bird. After the neck, it becomes just cosmetic. Here, it becomes part of the feathers that you are going to have. And that is a big thing to consider about this animal. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start giving it these small stripes. Here it has a very faint one, here it has a deeper one. And then the feathers themselves, the stripes themselves, are very dark and very close to each other. So what you are going to do is, you keep some color in between each stripe and you try to give it stripes that are close to each other, but not too close. It's like a zebra and a tiger combined. So you are going to give it like that. And the thing is, the upper half of the body has thick stripes, and then the lower half is going to have very thin stripes. That's going to be separating a lot of details. These stripes are darker and more irregular, so give them some kind of wiggle. And make sure to give them a solid structure to follow the body. So what's going to happen is, for example, here the stripes slowly get to be lighter, and here the stripe ends all together and blends into what's going to be the rest of the feathers. So here now I'm going to be drawing the feathers themselves. So it is going to be first the feather outlines and then the stripes coming along. So here, just some outlines of feathers. Be liberal with them. The feathers themselves do matter, but no animal is perfect, and so your drawing also doesn't have to be. Just give them like fish scales. Remember that they are stacked on top of each other. And remember that here, there's faint continuations of the stripes that go into the body, but they're very faint. So before we go into the feathered part, we can complete and finish the stripes here because they are very faint. So here, very light, we are continuing the stripes. The stripes are connected and they are kind of curvatured. Keep a mostly uniform amount of space between the stripes when you are drawing them. Give them a fair amount of space to fade out, and you are going to have a very realistic budgie. So here, for example, it connects to the top parts and you have the head basically done. Now what you want to do is give it these small pieces that are going to be the feathers. Make sure to keep the feathers big. This bird has very chunky feathers, and so you should also make sure to make the feathers big and chunky. It's also going to make you save time and save effort when trying to paint this bird. It will be both true to realism and also feasible to draw. So here I'm keeping drawing it again, following the body lines that I've laid out slowly, like fish scales. As I said, like fish scales, I'm giving it bird feathers. So here the feather texture changes to very wide feathers. So here I am changing the wider feather texture when the feather sector is disturbed. It changes because the feather itself is actually tucked in as the bird stands. So as a part of the bird's anatomy, the feathers are actually weirdly folded arms with feathers that are like hairs on them. These are hollow, as are the arm bones, as the bird bones are hollow. that allows them to be light and to generate lift while not being very heavy themselves, which allows the bird to essentially be a wing flapping plane. And this is the main thing that inspired airplanes that we have. It's a marvel, really, and I'm, as I always say, a great fan of wildlife. Now that we have all the feather structure going, we are going to give it stripes. So how the stripes go is, the stripes are basically located in the stem of each feather. Having the feathers drawn out makes this structuring process of the stripes much easier, because all you have to do is just color the base of each little scale or feather that you have, and it's basically automatically giving this the stripes that each budgie is known for. So here it's slowly becoming striped, and it's slowly becoming the budgie that everybody knows and loves. Here we are coloring, just like I said, the stem of each little feather is getting a dark gray, so that when you finish drawing, you have a finished process, and all you need to do is pretty much admire your drawing, because you drew according to the nature of the bird itself, and so you don't have to actually structure how you go about it. You just need to follow the steps that you yourself have laid on. And so, as we can see, the iconic stripes of a budgie are forming, and we are making them gray, as all budgies have. Little pieces of gray everywhere, so that the bird is eventually covered in what we see as the little bird stripes. So here you can see it's giving it a great bit of detail that is very aesthetically pleasing and making the bird much more realistic. This little detail is going to also make no one doubt that which bird you have drawn. This is a budgie. Everybody who sees this will say that it's a budgie, and if you show this to a budgie, it would probably recognize that this is a budgie. It is also not too difficult, so to say, that you don't have to give the actual feather texture with the small branches as you would give to a very hyper-realistic painting. So you can enjoy the drawing process itself, because it is very comforting. And this is one of the pets that humanity loves, and one of the pets that are so friendly that I believe they deserve to be given their own little drawing on this channel, and to be taught to people about how to draw them. So as you can see, we are nearing the end of the coloring process. Just a little more. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something that relaxes you, because if you just enjoy doing it, it's going to look good anyway. And so here we have the budgie done. Let's give the little branch also some texture. Just linear strokes, and just linear strokes. The budgie itself is done. Let's bring it slowly down, and this is the picture that we have. Anybody who sees this is going to say, okay, this is a budgie. And you saw that it didn't really take too much time, and it was very relaxing. It's like drawing mandala, but very natural, I would say. And I only used 3 colors of pencils and 1 pencil of graphite, so it isn't really complicated to draw either. I hope that my step-by-step drawing actually helped you. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and just wait for more daily videos, because I draw daily, and as this is my hobby, I'm going to be teaching more about how to draw these animals and other things like cars and buildings also down the line. So stay tuned.